into this mix.
Hey, what's up everyone? This is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network and Activist Post. Today I want to talk with you about a really important topic that has been bothering me lately as I'm trying to make my way in this crazy world and look for solutions on how we can create a more free, prosperous, just, and ethical society without acceptable violence as we see today in our world. And when I'm looking at solutions, I've come across the ideas of agorism and counter-economics and essentially divesting, vacating the state and all the institutions that you don't support. So if you don't like the government, well then stop using their services. Try to limit your use of the Federal Reserve note and their currency. If you don't like Monsanto, stop buying their products, stop supporting factory farms and industrial farming industries. That's the idea. If you don't like an industry, take the power away from it by removing your support of it, and in whichever way that may be, financial, moral, etc. And one of the biggest institutions that is responsible for violence and for crime around our world are banking institutions. People sometimes refer to these individuals as banksters, and I think that's quite accurate when looking at the activity of banks and what they have done to the United States and really nations around the world for the last couple hundred years. And you can also see that banking families and banking institutions have ruled over and influenced nations for generations after generations. So when I'm looking at this and people recognize that, well, we had the 2008 financial crisis, which affected millions of people around the world. People lost their jobs, lost their savings, and this was done by these banks and their predatory lending and their financial weapons of mass destruction designed to take power away from the people. And then after that is exposed and the reality comes to the surface, the United States government and many governments around the world, most of the governments around the world up beyond Iceland, besides Iceland, most of those governments allowed the people behind these banking institutions to go free. There are very few people who actually suffered any sort of accountability and were charged for these things. So we have that. We have banks involved with financing and funding terrorism. There's banks that have been associated with attacks on indigenous communities. When you also look at the banks and the way that they finance and fund projects such as the Dakota Access Pipeline and other projects that don't serve the people or don't serve the health of the planet, you also have their involvement in corporate media. A lot of the banks are also working together with the 5 to 6 corporations that own everything you see and hear through the Deadstream media. So they're financing those same organizations that are propagandizing you. Then you also have the connection between the Federal Reserve System and the banking institutions from around the world. So the Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States. It issues the currency, it prints the currency, and it's involved with maintaining inflation rates. Many of you know that the Federal Reserve is actually a scheme designed to steal from the American people. That your tax dollars go towards paying a debt to this private institution, the Federal Reserve. It's not corporate, it's not part of the government, it's its own institution. And the private shareholders and the owners, the people behind the Federal Reserve, are these same banking institutions. And you also look at the past administrations. The Obama administration was heavily involved in promoting Goldman Sachs people. Hillary Clinton obviously had ties to Goldman Sachs. And even now, new President Trump has appointed people who've worked with Goldman Sachs and worked with a lot of these big banking institutions. So I look around and I see the influence, the negative influence of all these banks in our lives, in our world today. And yesterday I asked Facebook, if so many people, millions of people know about the crimes of the state, why do you continue to use banking institutions? I don't have a bank. I don't even have a credit union. I think that credit unions are definitely a better option for those of you who use banks. In some ways, we're all sort of screwed. I use PayPal, right? I have a PayPal debit card, essentially, that takes money directly out of my account. But there's a bank behind that ensuring that, and I'm sure that bank's screwing me over in some way or another. But I'm trying to not support them directly by not giving them my money so they can take it and then keep it in this Federal Reserve System and play with it however they please. Now, some of the answers whenever I ask people why they continue to use banks is that they're doing it to support their family, they have a business and they need to do it, convenience, direct deposit. I want to make it clear that this is not an attack on anybody who chooses to use a bank. I want us to have this conversation so we can propel ourselves forward and try to understand what ways can we actually fight this machine and what ways are we harming ourselves or limiting ourselves. Without a doubt, the largest answer, the most repeated answer I've heard from people that I've been asking this is convenience and direct deposit. My roommate here at the Freethinker House, he recently quit his bank and went to a credit union, and it took him a while because he was just like, oh man, I got to switch some things around and direct deposit this. And it's essentially, the problem is it's going to take time. It's not something I'm looking forward to, and that's is what keeping people from moving forward, because there are definitely other options. Not everybody wants to hide their money under the bed or in a shoebox like me, but you can also invest in Bitcoin and keep your money elsewhere outside of the banks. You can invest in other type of currencies beyond keeping them in the banks. And even if you do want to keep your money in somewhere, I do think you would want to look into a credit union as a better option, because these banks have been screwing us over for a long time. If we can't even get past the point of convenience, then we're doomed. I mean, there's really no optimistic way to look at it. If people won't change from working with institutions that attack indigenous communities, rob you blind through financial weapons of mass destruction, work to corporatize and overpower the government and work with the state, fund projects that don't serve the people or the planet, if they continue to do those things, but we are unwilling to stop working with them because it's convenient, then we're in a lot of trouble. We've got a lot of work to do if that's as far as we've come. So brothers and sisters, with all the respect I can muster, and with all the hope for real change, I ask you, why are you holding on to your bank still? And what will it take for you to divest? Can we start a divestment movement, not just from the banks, but from all the institutions that don't serve us? Can we do that? Because if we are stuck on convenience, if we are stuck on being afraid to do things because of it's tedious or whatever other reason you can come up with, we're not going to get very far. We have to push ourselves. We have to be willing to hold ourselves accountable and move past this state of fear and comfort. Thank you guys for listening to me and considering my ideas. Please subscribe to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel at youtube.com/consciousresistance. You can support me monthly on patreon.com/Derrick Broze. Thank you. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.